Thank you very much for joining me here this afternoon. These guidelines are obviously about the maintenance of stormwater treatment measures. People often refer to things generically as a manual or as a guide or a document or whatever. Technically, they are the New South Wales guidelines for the maintenance of stormwater treatment measures. Quick background on me. I've been in the industry for about 30 years, started with the EPA. Now I run a company called Optimal Stormwater, and I'm the longest serving person on the Stormwater New South Wales Committee, currently in the position of Secretary. So if everyone can read that, the biggest reason for failure of our stormwater treatment measures to meet their environmental outcomes is maintenance. Incorrect maintenance and insufficient maintenance. I mentioned that at the National Conference in Sydney back in 2018. It was true 20 years before then, and it's still true today. Next slide. So let's say, I'll put this one up. Let's see what I mean by it's not, it's maintenance that's letting us down. So have anyone out there actually seen assets like this? This happens to be a diversion chamber going into an offline CDS gross pollutant trap. Clearly, lack of maintenance, it's blocked in the inlet, massive overtopping, huge issues. That's a HumeGuard gross pollutant trap where the weir has wedged down and the pollution's all caught on the top of the stays and the device is non-operational. That's looking inside an Ecosol at 200% full, 3 models undersized for the catchment and non-operational. That's looking at a trash rack, poorly located, poorly designed. It's been damaged during the maintenance process and all in all poorly maintained. This is a filter cartridge system designed to be cleaned when the level of sediment gets to about 50 to 100 mils, and clearly in this photo you can see that it's way up to above the top of the cartridges, and some of the cartridges have come dislodged due to a lack of maintenance. That happens to be a CDS again with oil all over the surface, but the inlet chute, which is the little bit above, right in the centre of, above the oil, right in the centre of the device, is all blocked. No one's been in, assessed it, cleaned it, etc. So we're seeing a trend here. Here we've got blocked screens and the surface of the device is completely clean and clear because there's nothing in there. It's resuspending and flushing and the screens remain blocked. Again, lack of maintenance. Upstream at this particular site there were 2 gross pollutant traps. I got here thinking we'll have to look at increasing the flow and recirculation in the pond until we realised there was no flow and circulation. Bypassing at both GPTs meant that the pond was getting no water, it was just stagnant and turned a nuclear green. Horrible. If you're all looking at that and going, oh, that must be paint, you'd be wrong. That is actually white algae that's coming out of a gross pollutant trap due to not cleaning behind the screens for 10 years, and the anaerobic breakdown has produced very low pH water, very acidic water, and the algae that grows in that is white. Here's a HumeGuard gross pollutant trap that's absolutely full to the top, so much so the pollution is now halfway up their weir. There's evidence of stuff going over the top of their weir, and their weir is wedged down, so the system is both full and non-operational. Here's a rain garden with you know, there's so much sediment and stuff that's been caught in the rain garden but no cleaning. Sediment's now going around the side of the gutter, as you can see. Plenty of examples, I could go on all day. I'll finish with this one though. Look at that for a beautiful bioretention system or biodetention basin. Mother would be proud to have that in her backyard. Not. I have thousands of photos of stormwater treatment measures not working, and there's dozens of reasons, and I've not got time to go through them all today. But the number 1 and 2 reasons are, as you're reading now, lack of knowledge of what each solution needs to keep it working optimally, hence the need for the manual, and a lack of funding to do it. And hopefully the manual will put a lot of thought in a lot of people's minds and help them to actually achieve that level of funding. Okay, so let's get a bit of background. There's actually plenty of maintenance manuals and design advice for all sorts of wetlands and biofiltration and all sorts of different stormwater treatment techniques. None of them really went far enough. Lots of them were motherhood statements, generic comments, lots of good thought and advice, but not a lot of specific detail. And lots of the assumptions that went with those manuals were that everyone knew what to do and was doing it. Well, I can tell you they were wrong. The biggest area of failure is in regards to the proprietary devices, because no one really wanted to stand up and tell the industry how to clean somebody else's device. When this whole manual kicked off, I was with the New South Wales EPA, and they weren't prepared to mention the name of the products or the name of the companies that produced them. So how you could provide technical advice on how to correctly maintain a device if you weren't even prepared to say what it was is beyond me. What the maintenance managers at councils, the people who were organising and looking after these devices wanted was a cookbook. They wanted specific advice and instruction that was related for their exact treatment. What the cleaning contractors wanted, interestingly, was exactly the same thing. They wanted clear and concise advice on exactly what was required for them to do. So unless you've actually got a specification of what to do, how's everyone going to quote on the same thing and know what they're actually quoting on is the right scope of works? They will now, because ta-da! That is the cover of the new guidelines for the maintenance of stormwater treatment measures. Let me just be clear that this isn't a regulation. There's no legal requirement to use it, but mark my words, it will become the industry standard. That is actually the cover, the spine and the back cover as it's ready to get printed. And we're going to call it the yellow book. So bear with me one sec. And I'll just get dressed for the occasion. All right, we all good? As you can see, the document has a predominantly black and yellow cover, as per my retirement. Many years ago, the two most popular books in the industry in regards to erosion sediment control were known as the Black Book and the Blue Book. So if you can't remember the name of this guideline, feel free to call it the Yellow Book. All right, here's a brief history of the guidelines. Back in the 1990s, the EPA commissioned the first version of these guidelines, and the major issue with it was not having appropriate information on proprietary gross pollutant traps. In the early 2000s, the second version was commissioned, more money spent on getting it to where it's sort of where it's at now. And in 2006, the third version, all to try and update information on how the cleaning techniques were being done in the field and include all the proprietary devices. But the problem was the EPA, being a government body, was not prepared to actually put in the names and the companies involved in those proprietary solutions, and that left a big hole in the market. In 2014, EPA gave the document to IPWEA, who was hoping to actually produce it and make some money as a result. Unfortunately, that hasn't really happened. It's not a money spinning thing. There is a cost to buy it, but that's largely to cover the costs of producing it and upkeeping it. In 2016, IPWEA gave the document to New South Wales Local Land Services, who in 2017 came to an agreement with Stormwater New South Wales to look at finalising the manual and getting it out. In 2018, I was the key author in a big rewrite. We took it from 400 pages predominantly of design information and brought it right back to 100 pages of site-specific, practical, user-friendly information that asset managers can use, cleaning contractors can use, and the people that own and design and maintain and clean and decommission these devices, they all need this information. Anyway, as of 2020, right now, it's about to be released. It is released. You're being advised of this. You'll be able, at the end of this presentation, I'll tell you where and when you can get it, which will be available from tomorrow. So why were they written? The biggest problem with some of the other advice that was out there is that certainly it wasn't particularly clear and easy to use. People wanted the cookbook. Lots of the other design manuals are for the engineers and consultants sitting in an office. It's not aimed at the people actually doing the maintenance of these assets. This manual was written to actually provide advice on all the proprietary devices that government departments were actually afraid to provide, and obviously to explain how maintenance should be included in decisions on new devices. And one of the biggest key things for this particular document is that whilst there's a first half of the document and the second half is the appendices, and the appendices have a one-page cleaning specification for every single type of proprietary stormwater treatment in Australia and every model thereof. Got that? One-page cleaning specs, every type of device and every model they have. So why were they written? Well, specifically to fill in an information gap that related to the correct cleaning of GPTs and specifically of the proprietary stormwater treatment devices. So, who is it aimed at? We obviously have a variety of people on the web. Hello to you all. Not all of you are going to be maintenance managers or cleaning contractors. There will be many engineers from across a wide realm of industry, I'm sure. But the main ones that this particular manual is aimed at is obviously the council maintenance managers that are looking after these stormwater treatment devices administratively and sometimes in the field as well. And obviously the cleaning contractors are physically rolling up their sleeves, getting in and doing the work. Who else is it aimed at? Well, obviously councils don't own all these stormwater treatment measures. You've actually got other device owners, which could be body corporates, they could actually be industry, could be in private ownership. So there's other people that do own them. Consultants and designers will actually use these guidelines getting advice, because there's no point in designing something if it can't be maintained. So there's going to be a spec for how to maintain it. They need to incorporate that in their designs. And obviously all the other people that are involved, specifically with councils that typically own the majority of stormwater, in their sustainability sections, parks, roads, environment, engineering, and most importantly, the bean counters that are actually going to be funding these works. They need to understand the basis for why it's costing what it does. Who else is it aimed at? It's also aimed, of course, at the cleaning companies, the staff that are actually out there on the end of a suction hose, on the end of a backhoe, etc., that are physically doing the work. These guys have never been trained adequately in what to do. Some do a great job, some not so much. All sorts of companies are different, but at the moment there isn't any training protocol. That will change as a result of this manual. And obviously in a lot of council areas and some even city areas, the council stormwater sections have their own cleaning staff in-house. So with currently no training available in exactly how to clean every device, this has led to guessing, shortcuts, and in some cases pretty poor outcomes. As I mentioned, some cleaning companies are better than others. But if there were no specifications on what they were supposed to do and no training in how they were supposed to do it, it's pretty unfair to look at blaming the cleaners for not getting the best out of the millions of dollars that have been invested in our environmental protection infrastructure. They're doing the best job they can. Now we can do better. It's time the industry stood up, and that's exactly what this manual is going to do. Who else is it aimed at? Obviously the council stormwater manager. He will be involved in sizing, siting, design, selection of new devices, new treatments, development approvals, etc. So this guideline is actually designed to give them knowledge and ability to put a case forward to increase funding so they can do their job better, provide advice to the consultants that are seeking it, and obviously the cleaning contractors and their maintenance people. So obviously with this training, with cleaning specifications, we're going to get better tenders, where they're going to produce better bang for your buck and better ammunition for asking the bean counters and hopefully getting more funding to allow us to do all our jobs better. Is it a design guide? You can read that word right there. No, it's not. It does have a significant amount of information on maintenance that should ideally be taken into account during the design, and certainly the sizing and siting and selection of stormwater treatment devices, but it is not a design tool. It's a practical guide for the maintenance of these particular type of assets. How do I use it? Okay, the manual is both an educative tool and a series of cleaning specifications. If you're new to the game, you're learning, this is going to be a compulsory read from start to finish as part of your training in how to maintain these assets. If you're in the field and you need to know how to clean a P2018 CDS unit, there's a one-page specification exactly for that device. How are councils going to use this? Well, a lot of them are already planning to put it in, and that is, they'll say in their next cleaning tender specification that's going out to the cleaners, you must clean our devices in accordance with the maintenance guidelines. That's referring them to the specifications, the one-page specifications, and to all the general principles that are actually in the guideline. Just by doing that alone, councils will be able to see a notable improvement. Everyone will be bidding on the same works, and the works will be the correct works. So, how do you use it? Well, the advice in the main part of the manual is broken up into a section dealing, well, sections for each different type of device, but dealing with monitoring, dealing with regular cleaning, and dealing with comprehensive cleaning. We might say monitoring monthly, regular cleaning 3 monthly, and comprehensive cleaning once a year. But you'll be able to refer to the one-page cleaning specs for all gross pollutant traps and main proprietary type devices in your cleaning specifications. And the people who have a copy of the manual, you'll be able to electronically cut and paste these into your cleaning tender. So if you only have 3 different GPTs, you'll be able to select those individual types and models that you have and take those 3 pages and put them in your cleaning tender. Okay, won't it get out of date? Well, this was one of the things we battled with very early, and having had a near on a 30-year evolution of this document, there was some concern that when you write a document 5 years, it's out of date. It won't get out of date, no. The reason is Stormwater New South Wales have made a commitment that we will be keeping a register of all the people who actually do the training course, and it comes with a free manual if you're doing the training. And every 12 months an updated electronic copy will be provided. Yes, that's free and it's updated and it's every year. So, this is going to allow references to be updated, new studies to be updated, new legislation to be included, new reports, other manuals, etc. to be included, putting new performance requirements in if people change objectives for what they're expecting out of their devices. And of course, there will be evolution of new devices. This is going to make it a living document. So as the industry evolves, this document will evolve with it. Tell you more about the manual? Oh, okay, here I go. Just a quick recap of where we're at. The purpose is to assist asset managers to actually plan, budget, tender and implement the cleaning of their stormwater treatment assets. Obviously, routine cleaning, regular cleaning, annual and comprehensive cleaning is most important. If you don't do it, your assets are worth nothing and they become liabilities. But you're not going to be able to do it unless you plan to do it, you budget to do it. Very commonly the council who own these are tendering to do it, and then you actually have to do it. So the purpose of this is to assist the asset managers to better understand the maintenance methods, the frequency, the costs, how the cleaning contractors actually think, how to get the best out of your cleaning contractors, and what the information and money and support they need to do this. So that's for the asset managers that own the devices. The other purpose with this is to assist the cleaning contractors, a specification for the cleaning, a specification for monitoring. Obviously content required to actually validate the cleaning, what information councils do need reported on their cleaning. Cleaning contractors need to understand dewatering, the costs associated with that, environmental impacts. They need to understand risk and safety, and obviously understand reporting responsibilities. So there's an education component in there for the cleaning contractors as well as the asset managers. We're not picking on one, we're educating everyone. The first part of the guideline, as I mentioned, is the main guideline document. The second half is in the appendices. That has the section with all the one-page cleaning specs. In the main document, it's broken up into the 9 sections you can actually see here. Obviously, there's an introduction. The first step is you have to plan for maintenance. If you're not planning for maintenance, it won't happen. The next little thing that's popped up, and we couldn't get around it, is asset handover. Because very commonly when developers and contractors build these sort of solutions and put them in the ground, there's a historically poor asset management handover of drawings and cleaning specifications that actually get through to the asset owner. That's all covered in a way that we're hopefully looking to improve everyone's handling of this particular problematic section of the industry. Obviously you need to monitor the devices, and then there's the cleaning and the maintenance. Those are monitoring, small section, cleaning, maintenance, huge. The next thing though is a section on waste management and disposal. Obviously these things pull out tons, or in fact thousands of tons of pollution a year. And obviously if that's going into our landfills, that's not particularly ideal. There's now a couple of companies out there that are reusing, recycling up to 80% of the waste that comes out, and obviously that's the way we want to look into the future. Water management and decanting is another big issue. A significant impact of the cost of the cleaning is very commonly in how you deal with the water. So if you've got a permanent water in a GPT or a wetland, how do you get rid of it cost effectively so that you can allow the thing to be maintained? Obviously monitoring of performance to know whether your device is meeting, it was designed to do a certain task. Is it doing that or not? Hard to know unless you're doing performance monitoring. It's an absolute minefield. This gives you a good understanding of why it's a minefield and hopefully some good pointers on getting the best outcomes. Obviously then auditing comes into it, because once you've got all these things in the field, periodically, typically about once a decade, you want to get out there and audit all of them to know what's working, what's not, and why. And if it's not, why not? And can it be fixed? That leads to the last step, obviously, which is asset rectification, which is in lots of cases devices that were designed back in the 80s, 90s, the noughties, weren't taking into account advances in technology made in the last 20 years, and a lot of things have developed over time, and as a result, we can take knowledge from today and retrospectively look at how to fix up some of our older assets. In the appendices, there's just a quick list. I'm not going to read through them all, but there's about 40 odd proprietary stormwater treatment devices there. There's another handful that I wasn't able to fit on this form, but that just gives you an idea of how many different types of stormwater proprietary treatment devices are out there. Obviously this is a snapshot. There are more that convey water, that infiltrate it, etc. This is just treatment. If we look at the first one on the list, the HumeGuard, there's probably about a dozen models of that. There's about 16 models of the CDS unit. There's about 9 or 10 models of Cleansol. There's about 12 or so of the Ecosol. And historically, those 4 devices probably make up about 90% of the market. That will change going forward. Trust me, that's going to change. However, all of these devices are potentially worthy of consideration. Use your knowledge, use your consultants, use the auditing outcomes in the field to know which devices work best for you and your cleaning regime. But there's going to be a one-page cleaning spec for everything that's on there and every model of every one of those. Next. Now, for a couple of quick glimpses into the manual itself. Who's that ugly bugger that's monitoring a gross pollutant trap? Oh, that's me. Very simply, if you are going to get in the field, there's a few things you need to know. More of this will come out in the training than by reading the manual. But obviously, if you don't know what one of these is, you probably haven't been involved in monitoring of stormwater pollution traps before. This is a survey staff. You want one of these, it extends up and up and up and up and up. Can't do it in here, I'll hit the roof. But that's just a simple tool that all the people that are out in the field doing this job, you'll need one of those. Does anyone know what this is? If I press that button, yes, that's the signal of a personal gas detector coming on. There are certain risks with climbing in and inspecting these sort of devices. If you don't know what you're doing, do not get inside one of these things. Get the people trained that need to do it, get them the equipment that they need to do it, and it'll all be fine moving forward. But you can't do anything unless you've got the equipment you need. So when monitoring and inspecting these sort of devices, there's a whole range of things that need to be taken into account, and you need the tools to actually do the job. So there's a quick list of the tools. It's covered in more detail in the manual. That page there is what's called a data sheet. As you're looking at it, the upper left is all about the owner's information. On the table on the upper right is about the device, its location, its access, its padlocks, its lids, etc. The table in the middle is all the technical information about the product, and the table at the bottom is the bee's knees. That's the one you're very interested in, so I've highlighted that for the next slide. When you actually turn up to a device and you open the lid and you have your survey staff there and you push it down into the device and you go, I've hit the pollution and it's 4.2 metres. Well, if you don't have a page like this, what does 4.2 metres mean? Does that mean it needs cleaning or it doesn't need cleaning? If you do have a data sheet, you do have this information, then you'll read down the table as you can on the left-hand side, read 4.2, scroll across to the right and you'll see it says 70%. Great, it's 70% full, I'll come back next month. Without this sort of information, you turn up and you monitor it and you've got data. You don't actually have information. So having the right tools, the physical tools, and obviously the administrative tools are all big steps in forwarding, in making your maintenance challenges a lot easier. Then we have a big section in Chapter 5 on the maintenance of these, broken up primarily into the primary treatments and secondary treatments. Primary, obviously designed to target litter, organics and coarse sediments. The secondary treatments, typically finer silts, soluble nutrients, bacteria, that sort of stuff. So obviously gully pit traps, trap gullies, gross pollutant traps, wet and non-wet, proprietary, non-proprietary, trash racks, dry traps, nets, booms, etc. are all major forms of primary treatment that were never properly covered in any of the previous manuals. Big hole in the industry, this manual fills that hole. The secondary treatment, there has been a fair bit of information in a couple of very good documents, and those are referred to in our manual, in our guideline. But the secondary treatments obviously include permeable paving, oil and sediment separators, cartridge filters, media filters, infiltration basins, swales, ponds and sediment basins, bioretention, rain gardens, and my favourite being constructed wetlands. So they're all excellent forms of secondary treatment. There's lots of good information. We've repeated the best of it in here, in our manual, and we've referred to anywhere that's got better information than we do. We haven't looked to recreate the wheel. We're not looking to copy great work done elsewhere. If there's good work done elsewhere, we'll refer to it and you'll be able to find that elsewhere. But we're here to fill in the holes and give you a good idea about how to actually maintain your assets. So as I mentioned, the guide's structured where for each one of our assets, we're looking at how you monitor and inspect it, how you do a regular clean, and then how you do an annual or comprehensive clean. But knowing when to do a clean can be quite hard. You need to understand what triggers a clean. Those photos there, the top left one is a Cleansol, 250% full and non-operational. They missed the cleaning trigger. On the right, a CDS unit, 250% full, non-operational. Again, same story. On the bottom left, an Ecosol, 200% full, bypassed and blocked and bypassing and doing nothing, and obviously no one knew what the cleaning trigger was. And on the right, just neglect of a Hume guard, and they've missed the cleaning trigger. So you have to know what the cleaning triggers are, and they are specific to each individual device, and in some cases, the model of each individual device, hence the one-page cleaning specs. Chapter 6 gets into the EPA advice being to reduce, reuse and recycle, and what we do with waste management. One of the biggest things we can do in this regard is looking at decanting facilities to minimise disposal costs. But obviously waste disposal, if we can look at reusing some of the waste we pull out, that's the future. The past is burying it in landfills. The future is trying to recycle 80% or more potentially of what comes out. That's my hand in the photo on the right, picking this stuff up. It's like beautiful, fluffy topsoil, like soil conditioner. Lovely, no odour, and I'd be happy to spread it around on my lawn. So lots of potential for the reuse of all the sediment and organics that come out of a lot of these measures. Obviously, Chapter 7, we're looking at water management and what you can actually do, the options. That's a big one in terms of impacting cost. Where we can discharge to sewer, that's probably the best and most environmental outcome, but needless to say, most sewage authorities aren't interested. Decanting on site, in some places works well, in others you can get community feedback that you don't want, etc. Obviously, decanting back into the device upon completion is an option, especially for smaller ones. Decanting to an agreed irrigation area, certainly that's going to work well for country areas. Decanting at a council decanting facility is going to save you money if city councils can look at producing those facilities for their cleaning guys. And obviously pumping to a mobile or portable on-site treatment facility, if you've got no other options, does provide an environmental outcome that should be acceptable. Decanting on site to a grassed irrigation area is probably the cheapest, fastest, easiest, but you need to know what to do, and we've got 4 pages of advice to make sure you don't get yourself in trouble in that regard. Auditing of these traps is the next section, where you actually ascertain the depth, the volume, the dimensions for each type of device. Obviously, key access information, keys, catchment area, the owner's contacts, etc. Everything you need to know about the device. Obviously, site-specific information such as traffic management, backwater, dewatering, tidal flows, low flows, decanting options, etc. can all come out of the audit, because now you know everything about your devices. And obviously the auditing allows the creation of data sheets. It also produces a rectification spreadsheet. So once you know why things are not working, you can actually propose practical, logical ways to address the improvement of your assets moving forward. Look, in some cases it's a cheap fix. In other cases, unfortunately, it's a fair bit more expensive. But these sort of audits are done once a decade. Lots of information on them in the guideline. I recommend you do that. But if you're producing a rectification spreadsheet, a report, a data sheet, and the cleaning specs, you are massively on the right track to actually being able to get the best out of all your stormwater assets. Right, rectifying failing assets. Some of them aren't going to work ever. They were just a bad decision by someone in the past. Many can actually be improved. Obviously, we need to look at options and budgets for that. Sometimes you can decommission, sometimes you can recommission. Maybe a matter of ripping out old screens that don't work and putting in some new ones that actually will. There's everything council needs to know about rectifying their failing assets and improving them, making use out of the assets that are actually in the ground. And obviously, one-page cleaning specifications are in the back, as I mentioned. So, when's it available? Well, it's available upon sign up to the training course. So, a copy of the guidelines will be sent to you so you can start using it immediately once you've signed up for the training course. Obviously, the trainings have been delayed by COVID. Thank you very much. We're all sitting in a little COVID coves and caves at home, going quietly mad. But hopefully in July, these trainings will be able to start in earnest. I'll be one of the presenters, and it's a full-day course, and your guys will walk in with some knowledge and leave knowing just about everything. Obviously, once the organisation has a copy of the guidelines, you can share it amongst yourselves. What we don't want to see is the document have one PDF copy and then it sits on the shelves. Obviously, we want you to use the appendices, the individual PDFs, for your benefit, and I'll keep moving on. Obviously, trainings are going to be done in major cities and also several in key regional areas. So it shouldn't be too far or hard for people to get to that. Now, if you're not in New South Wales at the moment, don't worry. It's not the end of the world. I expect by December this manual will have its first revision, and with any luck it'll actually turn from a New South Wales document to a national document. As I mentioned, training starting in July. everything in the training is going to teach you how to actually do the works, all the tricks you need to know, all the tools, how to monitor a GPT. We'll actually get out in the field and get our hands dirty and you know, open up a trap and stick our heads in and make sure everyone knows exactly what they're doing. It's training for the managers at council that are managing the cleaners, and it's training for the cleaners. Understanding how to clean each type of device is the major outcome, and obviously no holds barred, all questions answered. You can see the website down there on the bottom of the screen. So www.stormwaternewsouthwales.asn.au, ASN for association, and that'll be the direction. There'll be details on there as to where you can leave your name and number, and you'll be contacted very shortly, and we'll exchange some money and send you a manual, and look forward to seeing you at the trainings. So what's it cost? Well, it's going to cost $595 if you're a member of the Stormwater New South Wales family. If you're not, there's another couple $100 in it. Obviously, once you have the manual, you don't need multiple copies. You've already got it electronically. You can share it amongst others in your organisation, and subsequent people can be trained at a lower rate. Do you have to get training? I'm anticipating some of your questions. No, it's not mandatory. You don't have to. But if you want to get the most from your internal staff, if you're the asset manager, or your cleaning staff, if you're the cleaning boss, then obviously getting them trained up is going to give you a big head start, and they'll understand how the traps work and they'll be able to do their job better. Also, it's likely councils will include in tenders the following statement. At least one person actually on site doing the cleaning has to have done the training that accompanies these guidelines. I expect that councils will require you to clean in accordance with the guidelines, which you can't do if you've never read the guidelines. So they'll want to get validation that your cleaning people on the ground have actually done the training course. And hopefully that'll stop it being used as something to sit on the shelf. Okay, people will ask, what about new devices? They're thinking about something brand new and I want to trial it. How do I get it into the manual? Every year, proprietors will be encouraged to develop and improve their devices. They always have. There's some significant evolution in our industry in the past 12 months. Very happy to see it. And those devices will all be in the first edition. So as things change, the cleaning advice will also be changed and updated. And anyone can contact New South Wales and have their device included. It's not a problem. It's not complicated. We'll ask you for a certain amount of information and some drawings. It's not going to be onerous. That advice will be sent through. This manual is not about saying which GPT or which stormwater treatment measure is better. It's about how to clean whichever one you've got. All right, so obviously you can contact me either at www.stormwaternewsouthwales.asn.au, or I'm at Optimal Stormwater, and my private email address is down there as well, mpowell@optimalstormwater.com.au. If you've got any questions, I'm an email away. All right, just quickly, because we're running out of time, the expected outcomes. Obviously, we're after improved knowledge right across the industry, better cleaning outcomes for the existing devices, more cleaning for the existing devices and the new devices, so they get cleaned with the frequency that's required. Obviously that'll mean more work for cleaning companies. Obviously auditing and device upgrades, raise our standards, do our job better. This is all about dissemination of information. My job here as one of the authors of the manual is to increase knowledge across the industry, run these training sessions to help the councils, help the cleaning contractors in they're out in the field and they don't know what they're doing, etc. Answer everyone's questions, and obviously year after year we'll keep updating the manual for you. Your job on the other end of this is obviously to take away the key points that you've remembered about today's webinar, and note that it's going to become the standard or the reference that people use in regards to cleaning of these devices. You'll need to get a copy and you'll need to be referring to it. If it's not your role, as whatever your role is in the engineering field dealing with stormwater maintenance, then please pass on the contact details that you've seen before to the right people in your organisation so they can get the manual and then they can get trained up. Obviously, as professional engineers, we're striving to produce the best outcomes we can in just about everything we do. So that should include the maintenance that will follow the design and the construction of stormwater treatment measures. So hopefully this webinar has opened your eyes to the latest evolution in stormwater management. It's called cleaning. Any questions?
Jumped out at me is somebody's popped up to say, do the one-page specifications at the end differ from what the manufacturer specifications in the manufacturer manual would be?
Yes and no. What we've commonly found looking at some of the manufacturers' operation and maintenance manuals is that they're like an 18-page document. There's no site-specific information in them. And in fact, in some cases, a vast majority of the document is just marketing material. We've condensed the 18 pages down to one page that's just fact. We've taken out all the glossy crap that surrounds it, and we've put in everything you need to know. The other little thing about this is devices fail because of their weaknesses. They don't fail because of their strengths. Proprietors are very loath to highlight the weaknesses of their devices. They're very quick to espouse the strengths of their devices and how great they are, etc. But things don't fail because of how great they are, they fail because of their limitations. And this will actually highlight the limitations that you need to assess when you're monitoring and cleaning these devices.
Okay, fantastic. That's a great one. And there's another couple of questions of a similar vein that have popped up from a number of people.
Mm-hmm.
For the sort of the designer consultant side of things, would you consider suggesting them to come along to the training, or is there a way that they can get access to the manual without coming to the training if you don't recommend it from a consultant side of things?
Oh, look, I'm sure people will be able to put their hands on a copy of a bootleg copy of the manual from a council that lends it to them. Hey, do it in accordance with this. That's not really the intention here. The intention is, so say you're at a major engineering consultancy, I wouldn't expect you'd need 10 people to come along. But if you're their gun designer when it comes to designing and sizing and siting new stormwater treatment infrastructure, new water sensitive urban design, then you're probably not going to go backwards by coming along. You'll understand, you'll have a whole new appreciation of the design process from a maintenance point of view. And if you think about it, most GPTs or other stormwater treatments, let's say it costs 100 grand to supply and install it. It's probably going to cost 5 grand a year to clean it. It's got a 50-year life. So in 20 years, it's the same as the capital. In 40 years, it's double the capital. In 50 years, it's 2.5 times the capital expenditure is what you're spending on maintenance. You better bloody look after the maintenance and make sure that it's going to be as cost effective as possible. It's got good access. The lids are right. You know, when you do need to dewater it, you can actually do it. The less you think about maintenance when it's in the design stage, the more costly it is to maintain in the long run. If those consultants want to be known as experts in the field, then they want to be doing a bloody good job. They want the councils and people who are going to own these and inherit them to be happy with the outcomes, not thinking, Jesus, it's another crap trap from XYZ consultancy. So they don't need to send everyone along, but I would encourage them to send at least one person. Fair enough,
that's great. So another couple of questions that popped out at various forums is some specifics about the training. Are you thinking 1 day, 2 day, mixture of classroom, on site? What are the thoughts for the actual delivery of the training?
I'm thinking 2 weeks, we jump on a cruise ship, we go up into the Pacific.
Cruise ships are Corona. That's not the Ruby Princess, is it?
Exactly. No, all right, let's break it down. Let's bring it back to, say, 1 day. It'll be a 9:30 start, 4:30 finish. We'll go through the main part of the manual. We'll actually physically see GPTs. We'll touch and feel all the equipment that you use to monitor and clean them. We'll explain how the different devices work, what you need to do while you're inside the devices, go through any of the one-page cleaning specs, answer any of their site-specific queries or their experience in the past. Hey, this failed, I don't know why. I'll be able to tell them. So it's a 1 day course.
Okay, cool. Excellent. Okay, well, we've got a few minutes left.
Mm-hmm.
Just skimming through.
No one's asked me where I got my jacket?
Murray, where did you get your jacket from? It's wonderful.
I bought it online.
Oh, nice. Well, you clearly didn't go to a shop at the moment, did you?
No.
Okay, got a quick question out here. I think this might have been covered with what you just said. Part of the ethos to plan and to maintain. Any suggestions about preparing costs for guidelines to be used for budgeting back at that planning stage? I think you might have just covered that though.
Well, yes. Look, if the developer is selecting what device goes in, his job is to put as much money in his skyrocket as he can, and he'll be after the cheapest thing, and he's not going to care about the maintenance because he doesn't foot that bill. Councils need to stand up for themselves and look at good quality devices that are appropriately sized to minimise long-term cleaning costs. And when people have sized and cited devices and stuff in the past, specifically GPTs for a sec, very commonly it's been, oh, what's the treatable flow rate going through a device? Well, that's great, but the job isn't about treating a certain flow rate, it's about catching a certain amount of pollution. And once you've caught it, you need to retain it. And once you've retained it, obviously you need to be able to afford to clean it. So, yeah, it's a pretty big thing. The long-term maintenance should be a major consideration in the decision of future GPTs.
Okay, perfect. In a similar sort of vein to those developers there, how's the feedback been from the manufacturing side of these? Are you receiving pushback? Are you getting support from the manufacturers at this stage?
Oh, look, generally it's been 95% positive and supporting, and they're all after better maintenance of their devices. So they're all hoping that when their devices are maintained better, they'll work better, people will be happier with them, and it has been 95% positive. The 5% that hasn't been has sort of, well, how are you telling the industry how to clean our devices? We should be doing that. Well, they've had 20 years to do that, and most of what they've produced is marketing guff, and there hasn't been a lot of fact. There are different degrees of information providers. Some providers are obviously better than others. Some provide lots of information and others don't. But generally everyone's been very supportive. The only little hiccups we've had are when I've reduced an 18-page cleaning specification into a 1-page cleaning specification, and I've had the feedback, oh, you can't do that, you've missed this. Well, if I am missing elements, they're not the critical ones, and at the bottom I've referred to each proprietor's device. So if the actual cleaning contractor still has a question after reading that spec, he's got he knows where to go and look for more information.
Okay, fantastic. Well, look, I think we're actually running out of time at this point. There's way too many questions left in this panel to get back to them all tonight. So look, I would like to thank Murray at this point again. And
if you'd like to leave your questions, I'm happy to come back and answer them and flick you back an email. So that's fine.
I was going to say, Murray's got his email on the bottom of this presentation. I encourage you to reach out and talk to him directly. And Murray, please be prepared for a deluge coming through here at this point.
There's only, 700 people watching? Brilliant.
Yeah, look, we got up to, I think I was keeping an eye on it here, we maxed out at just under 500. So that's an incredibly good registration and an incredibly good turnout rate. So look, thank you again on behalf of the Sydney Division Water Engineering Panel and the Stormwater Association for running this joint presentation. And I would just actually, on behalf of the panel while we're here, I'd actually just like to formally thank you, as well as encourage everybody here at the end to reach out and have a look at our next couple of events. Check out our website and LinkedIn page to see what's coming up next for the Sydney Division Water Engineering Panel. So thanks again, Murray, and thanks everybody else for joining us.
Been my pleasure. Cheers.
And we'll just wrap it up here. Thanks again, everybody.
All right.